Hey everybody, it is April 27th, and I wanted to talk to you about what you're going to be doing for Wednesday or Thursday of this week. So we're going to start our last writing, which is an argument essay. So we're going to plan and lay out the full-on essay for this argument assignment. Then we're also going to look at critical thinking as a skill. So we're going to talk about argument first. And an argument essay is a type of writing that requires students in general to investigate a topic. So they're going to collect and generate and evaluate evidence and ultimately establish a position on a topic. You're taking a stance with the way that you feel. So the structure, when we structure an essay, especially an argument one, here's kind of how it works. We have a clear, concise, and defined thesis statement that will be in the first paragraph, which is called an intro paragraph. Okay. Where you establish why the topic is important or why we should care about the issue, and then you end that with your thesis statement. And on Wednesday or Thursday, we'll be talking about this intro paragraph and giving you a really easy formula for every intro paragraph that you use. After we have our intro paragraph, then we have clear and logical transitions between that introduction, our body paragraphs, and the conclusion. They are kind of the mortar. They're what holds the essay together. Okay. They wrap up the idea from the previous section and introduce the idea in the next section. They are our signals. Our body paragraphs include evidential support, just like we've been working on. We have conciseness. We have logical connection between the body paragraphs and the thesis statement. And we want to have that logical progression of our idea, that logical progression of our thesis that's fully developed and fully supported. Okay. When we do real life argument essays, we are going to research. We are going to make sure that we have accurate, detailed, and current information. We could have some anecdotal evidence. However, we have to make sure that we're really grounded in logical thought. We probably also want to address our counterarguments, those opposing opinions that don't align with us. Okay. We want to make sure that we point out how other positions are wrong. Okay. But we want to do it in a way that is tactful. We want to explain how they might not be well informed, or they might not be based in most current research or current evidence. The ultimate goal of persuasive argument essay is to get people to believe the same way that we do. So we don't want to insult them. We want to show them, hey, this is where you might have been misinformed. And then show them the factual, logical information. And then we're going to end it with a concluding paragraph. And we'll talk about concluding paragraphs later on. We're going to synthesize that information. We're going to talk about what else we want our audience to do now that they've spent their time reading it. But for Wednesday or Thursday, we're going to focus on creating an argument thesis, one sentence that's going to be debatable and it's going to be narrowed. So let's look at what debatable means. Debatable means your thesis must be something that people could reasonably have differing opinions on. If it is something that everyone generally agrees or accepts as fact, then it's not a good argument thesis. If you write pollution is bad for the environment, you aren't going to find anybody that disagrees with that. The definition of pollution is harmful to the environment. So that's not a debatable thesis. That's not a debatable claim. You might want to shift it and say at least 25% of the federal budget should be spent on limiting pollution. That's debatable. Someone might say, wait, a quarter of the budget on pollution? No, I think we need education. I think we need health care. I think we need immigration. So that part is debatable. Pollution is bad for the environment is not a debatable thesis. So when you're thinking about your thesis, you want to think about it being debatable. You also want to have a narrowed thesis, because the more narrow your thesis, the more effective your argument will be. You have to support it. You have to support and develop your claim. So the more narrowed and focused, the easier it is to support. For instance, if your thesis is drug use is detrimental to society, you have to cover the following: illegal drugs, recreational drugs, over-the-counter drugs. You have to talk about society, American society, what ages, females, males. You want to talk about all the ways that it's detrimental. So does it cause addiction? Does it cause violence? Does it incite theft? Is it a culprit in car crashes, murders? I mean, you'd be writing from now until forever. It's too broad. So to narrow that down a little bit, you could write, illegal drug use is detrimental because it encourages gang violence. Now you have a more narrowed, debatable thesis that you can support and that you can cover. Okay? You're going to be writing a narrow, debatable thesis on your argument topic. Sorry, let me move this down to the end because I jumped the gun. Okay. There are some types of claims that you can make in your thesis statement. And so when you're thinking about writing it, you might want to think about what type of the four that you want to make. Okay. So claim type 1 is claims of fact or definition. These claims argue about what the definition of something is, or whether something is indeed a settled fact. Okay. For example, while some pundits have framed a four-year college education as something necessary for adult success, this notion should not be treated as a given. That person in the body of their paragraph is going to discuss that four-year college education is not necessary for adult success. So they are debating, they're claiming the opposite and proving why it is the opposite. You can also claim cause and effect, okay, where you argue that one person, one thing, or one event caused another thing or event to occur. So you could say federal student loan policies have contributed to widespread growth in college tuition. That's a narrowed, debatable claim where you're saying this caused that, and I'm going to prove it to you. Claim type number 3 is claims about value. This is what something is worth, whether we value that thing or not, or how we would rate or categorize something. For example, a narrow debatable thesis could be, the student debt crisis is one of the most serious problems facing the country today. And you would have to prove that that is indeed one of the most serious problems in the country. Or claims about solutions or policies. They argue for or against a solution or policy approach. So a thesis might read, rather than encouraging all students to attend four-year colleges, the U.S. should instead emphasize the validity of two-year colleges, technical schools, and trade schools as well. So this is saying, hey, the United States does this, but instead should do this, and I will prove why. So what type of claim should you use? Well, it will depend on your position and knowledge of your topic, your audience, and the context of your paper. Okay. So you want to think about your audience and where your audience stands on this topic. and maybe where you think the biggest difference in viewpoints might be. How does their viewpoint differ than yours? And even if you start with one type of claim, you're going to be bringing in others throughout your paper. But it's kind of nice to focus on one as a starting point. Okay? But regardless, the key is to identify the controversy or debate you're addressing and to define your position. So what you're going to be doing for Wednesday is thinking about, first of all, what topic do you want to tackle? You want to have a topic that you feel strongly about and that you have enough knowledge to develop and support in multiple body paragraphs. You also might want to stay away from something that you feel so passionately about that you are not rational. I can't talk about adoptions. I would not be able to write about it, okay? Especially open adoptions. That's my trigger point. Nope, I have very strong opinions that are based on my experience, and I kind of shut down everything else. Probably not smart if I want to write a logical argument. So pick something that you feel strongly about and that you have enough prior knowledge on to support. Please stay away from ones that have been done for the last 40 years. You know what they are. Pick something different. Okay? You're going to email me for Wednesday or Thursday your narrow debatable thesis. So in your subject, narrow debatable thesis, and then type what it is and send it to me in an email. That's the first part of your homework for Wednesday. The second part of your homework is to work on the critical thinking module in my reading lab. It is in the critical thinking box. It's the second skill in here. Okay. And you're going to be working through just the overview, sorry. As you are looking through the overview, I want you to do the following. I want you to define critical thinking, an author bias, an author claim, an argument, and connotation, diction, and syntax. And then tell me what's a supported claim and an unsupported claim. I want you to define fact, define opinion, informed opinion, implicit message, and explicit message. So on a note sheet, you should probably pause this video and make sure that you have these written down. You're not going to email them to me, but it's nice that you have a one-page definition list to help you work through the rest of this module. Okay, so get a piece of paper out, push pause, and copy down what you need to be doing. So your homework for Wednesday or Thursday is to email me your narrow debatable thesis and to complete your own note sheet on the critical thinking overview. Wednesday, you're going to be getting another email, and we're going to talk about, now that you have your narrow debatable thesis, how do you write your intro paragraph? So we're going to look at that formula for writing a really good, really simple intro paragraph. We're going to practice more with the My Skills Lab, and then we're going to talk about pronoun antecedent agreement, which is our last grammar. We're getting close to the end of the semester, so next week we'll be discussing your final exam. All right, don't forget about my virtual office hours. They're Wednesday and Friday this week. I will talk to you soon.